Hey everyone, this is Jim Rowan. Welcome to AI from the Front Lines. I'm here with Faisal, who's going to talk to us a little bit about all of his experiences from the AI perspective. He's a veteran in the technology space. He's working on some great digital transformation capabilities at HPE. I'd love to hear you do a little bit of your introduction. So, what's the thing you're working on? Tell us a little bit about what you're up to.
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having me. So I joined HP a little under 2.5 years ago. And just some background on myself, I've spent the last 2.5 decades and mostly in technology, in particular in retail, both large scale and startups. At HP in particular, spending a lot of time in this transformation where we're a core hardware company moving into the software space and doing it with the abundance of AI wherever possible. So my team is responsible for all the commercial software that we sell into the industry, specifically HP customers and non-HP customers, enabling them to manage their fleet of devices in the most efficient way possible.
That's awesome and really super. I mean, so you're at the heart of things that are going on from a technology perspective. You must be seeing a ton from all the transformation that's going on from AI. How are you thinking about handling just the broader pace of change that we're experiencing in the marketplace right now?
It's I'm writing about this currently, and what I'm noticing is these massive changes that have taken place over the past have been around sort of in my career at least, been brick and mortar to e-commerce was a big shift in consumer behavior. Then the mobile as mobile came around, you notice everybody moved to phones, and that was a pretty big seismic shift. But the AI transformation or change that's in the market today that we're seeing is more of a tectonic shift, which
Yeah,
is
totally.
you've got two different stories here. You've got technology companies, if you live anywhere in the Silicon Valley, like they're super advanced in what they're doing, and if you live in that sort of echo chamber, you think you're going to be doing everything with AI, and you probably are trying to, but the rest of the world is still trying to figure out what to do. And so what we're seeing in the market is there's a desire to provide efficiencies that result from the implementation of AI in the enterprise. But we're also seeing is that it's not as easy as it sounds because just introducing AI into your existing workflows doesn't exactly solve all the problems. So there's have to be take a step back and look at, okay, what are we doing differently? So I'd say it's a tale of different cities when it comes to our customers.
And what's interesting, maybe a year ago, we were talking a lot about sort of this construct in the market of AI for business and the business of AI, and how kind of the business of AI pace was just going so fast and rapidly, right? You're seeing new innovations going on constantly. And yet our survey data was kind of pointing back to the enterprise, and the enterprise was just having a hard time keeping up with the pace of change. So what do? We had new cycles, new things coming out, trying to address those things and finding sort of like this gap of like, am I missing out because I'm not moving at this pace of what's happening from an AI perspective? I'd be curious, like, how you're thinking about this with some of your customers, where maybe some have been like early adopters and sort of trying to move forward with AI really quickly, and others that maybe are maybe a little bit slower to adopt, maybe curious about where the best place to put funds from an ROI perspective. How have you helped them kind of navigate this or think through this?
It's a great question because everybody wants to have AI in their enterprise. Obviously, it's the mandate from the board,
It's
and
key, right? You got to do it.
if you don't have AI, you're not useful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the ROI is hard to find at this point,
Right.
unless you're in the basic sort of categories of customer service or supply chain, or the traditional things where AI is an immediate impact. I think for those areas like ours and the platform that we sell to customers in workforce experience, it's interesting. We've built a lot of autonomy in our platform, but a lot of our customers don't want full autonomy
Mm.
because they actually want to have the human in the loop. AI is being used for a lot of the analysis and the interpretation of what's happening, but not in the actual execution last mile.
That's really interesting. Okay. Maybe you could give us a little bit more about the platform. So talk to us about it, kind of what's in the key features are and where you think the best sort of use cases. You mentioned human in the loop in some of these cases too, but love to learn a little bit more about the platform.
Yeah, so the platform is pretty simple and straight, where we're a large hardware provider. We have been for decades. And as we go towards this vision of the future of work, well, the future of work is not just selling hardware. The future of work is actually improving productivity of those human beings using the hardware and software. So we started building the platform years ago with the single thought of saying to our teams that we're going to be agnostic to the OS, we're agnostic to the hardware, and we pretty much will collect telemetry from anything that is available. So our platform collects data from pretty much everything that you would find on the device. And our goal is to solve three problems for CIOs. CIOs care about security. Is my device safe? Is my enterprise safe? They care about cost. Can this platform help me reduce my cost and make it more efficient? And third is, hey, tell me how my employees are doing. How are they doing? How do I know that they're doing well?
Right.
So what we've done is consolidated all of that into a single platform where we sell, it's an API first cloud native platform where we have modules and they can buy the full platform or they can buy the modules and work up from those modules.
That's super helpful, and I understand sort of that's really helpful for the CIO. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about like where you're thinking this human in the loop versus human on the loop. Have you been hearing some of these conversations and stuff? It sounds like you're seeing more organizations saying, "I want the human doing the final action." Is that kind of the direct? And do you see that changing as maybe the AI solutions continue to get better, kind of fewer hallucinations, better outputs, kind of thing? What are you seeing there?
It's interesting you say that the risk of downtime is so significant. And part of the reason I wrote about it was because AI has no skin in the game. If something goes wrong, whose fault is it? What are we going to say? Who are we going to point this to?
Right.
So I don't think the confidence levels have reached to a point where think of the most basic use cases with home delivery for food. And I say my delivery is late. I'm punted to the bot.
Right.
I'm not getting the transaction completely fulfilled through the bot.
Yeah, just many years out in your definition. So that's really interesting. And now as we think about kind of the human plus machine sort of working environment as well, it sounds like we're seeing this real direction in the market. We're hearing everyone talk about, all right, AI is going to 10x my engineers, 10x my workforce, make the most experienced folks even better at kind of the work that they're doing and things like that. I'd be interested in your frontline experience. Like, are you seeing some of those things as your engineering teams are working with product? How that's actually transferring into your day to day?
Yeah, so I would say the key word here is depends. Uh, a lot
Classic
depends on.
consultant answer, man. Like that's the answer I'm supposed to give for
I
things.
know
All
I wish I didn't have to say that, but you guys are training me well.
right, good, good.
I would say that if the enterprise and the corporation has taken the investments and put them to work and training the staff to be able to best leverage AI as and when needed, one could argue the productivity is there. But in the world that we live in today, with all the collaboration tools that we use and the amount of context switching that takes place 24/7, I don't know if the true benefits are quite what are believed to be today. So in engineering, yes, there's benefit. Is it
Yeah.
10x? No, it's not 10x. Not even close. In regular employees, is it 10x? No. I would say the most educated employees on how to leverage AI are definitely 2 to 3x that of those people who are not literate with AI. Even as simple as just prompt management, right? Because they just don't know. And I think it's the responsibility of the enterprise to make sure they level the playing field and make sure the tools are available. The challenge is the consumer side of this is way more advanced than the enterprise side. You've got 7, 8 LLMs that you can just go do what you got to do, and you come to the enterprise and they give you this old, the CAIO, the Chief Information AI Officer comes in and says, "You're only going to use my LLMs." Well, why? Yours are not that
Yeah.
good. And
Right.
so I think the end user has so many choices at this point.
Well, and I love that tension because we're seeing this too, where you do have the consumer tech is just better than what the enterprise has. And so you have this interesting tension of do I try to keep up with the tech and open it up inside the organization? I was talking to someone, we heard this a little bit at an AI forum that we were running, where they were allowing their employees to use the AI tools for personal use, which is kind of like an interesting push. Do you think that's a way to kind of like break down some of these barriers between, what we see from consumer tech and what's in the enterprise?
Look, I'll put it very simply. Gen Z doesn't care about what the corporation's saying.
Yeah.
Just doesn't care. They're going to
Just give
do,
them the tools. Yeah.
they were born and raised with the best tools. The bar is so high. If you're going
Yeah.
to have them enter your corporation and give them some suboptimal, primitive things to work with, they're going to immediately default to what they know is best. And these
Yeah.
rules around what you can and can sound very draconian and old school. It's just not going to fly with Gen Z. In fact, it won't even fly with the other folks because when you've seen really good, it's very hard to use poor. So I think it's more, organizations can try to mandate these rules all day long. Good luck. It's
Yeah.
not going to work. So
I want,
raise
yeah.
the bar on what you provide in terms of the toolkit. Otherwise, you're not going to have adoption internally.
And I want to go back to something you were saying. We know it depends. There's a bunch of different use cases around these things, but the difference from someone going from maybe a 2x software engineer to a 10x software engineer, do you think that's something you're talking about, the organization sort of raising the bar? Is that something the enterprise needs to be doing from a training perspective? Is that a tooling problem that maybe the tools aren't there to make it happen? A little bit of both. I don't know. Option D, none of the above.
The governance becomes a really important part of the equation. And for 10x, like the governance part has to be pretty loose to allow that level of autonomy to exist in as you're letting the engineers use AI. There's a fair amount of skepticism on can you ever get to 10x from both of them, and I defer to my engineering leaders to do that. And my question would be, why do we have to be 10x? What is the benefit of that 10x if it comes with a laundry list of problems alongside it? So it's more, what's the optimal state you want to be in? How do you make sure your employees are productive so they're all sort of working well versus a few edge cases who are like excellent, but they're burning out because your expectations are so high. So I think we're still early. I mean, take product management. You could chat PRD, you got all these tools. There's still a lot of problems with them. Yes, you can now produce a 6-pager PRD pretty quickly, sure, but you still have to read it. You still have to revise it. You still have to tune it. You still have to modify it. You can't just trust it. In fact, now these tools are saying, check our work before you actually use it. Like, I don't know if you've seen those responses
Yeah.
where, wait, you want
Yeah.
me to check what you just did? So what's the point of all of this? So
Yeah.
I think the future is amazing, but there's steps to get there.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting too on the 10xing piece because I was also thinking as you're going through that, you also don't want, we hear a lot about AI slop, right? You don't want to measure that engineer on AI code commits because you can just be putting out a bunch of garbage. And so it's
Who's
quality,
doing the
it's
cleanup? Yeah.
efficiency. And your point on burnout's really interesting. Are you seeing or hearing stories of some of that kind of pressure in the market around like, so much, you asked me to do so much more with less, but you have these tools, so you're being pushed to really go work farther, harder, within there, within the organizations you're seeing?
You know, what I see, I work a lot with startups and
Yeah.
very active with them and even with HP. I would say the amount of tools that they're being exposed to, it's a bit of a challenge, right? There's a bit of a
Yeah.
drain that comes with it. It's almost like tool creep. There's so many tools. Everybody seems to know what they can do with whether it's an SRE running on your reliability engineering and automating all of those process, or it's DevOps. Oh, we're the best DevOps. Like, wherein lies the truth? And that scope creep that's coming with all these tools is also you have to be very careful about who you're choosing, what you're doing, and commit to it and move forward. So my answer to that would be um, the plethora of options available outside is not helpful. You
Right.
almost want a curated set of these are the market leading tools that we want to use for whether it's DevOps or it's SRE or whatever, and commit and move forward. Are we there yet? I think every day I'm pitched with new things. And as I take them to my engineering leader, he's like, nope, not interested. I'm going to go do this. So
Yeah.
a lot of hype and FOMO. We just have to manage it.
Yeah, and I think like that's what I see a lot too is that and I hear from our clients, it's really hard to make these buy decisions because there's so many options and the fear that whatever I pick today might be outpaced by the other tool tomorrow
So
really
true.
weighs on their shoulders for that.
It's so
Um,
true.
so you mentioned one of my favorite words, which is hype, because we were talking AI, so there's always this like hype versus reality conversation. I'd love your hot take on like what's your favorite, hyped thing right
I've
now
got
in
it
the
for you.
marketplace. What'd you say?
As you were talking, I was thinking of it, and I come from commerce,
Yeah.
and
Oh no,
I
agentic commerce. Is that your
I have been living and breathing every full stack commerce for the past 25 years.
okay.
That couldn't be more, it couldn't be a more sort of shocking hype around agentic commerce. I call these solutions looking for problems. There's a
Yeah.
lot of solutions looking for problems. And I think, if you take this agentic commerce situation with, oh, now we can plug into your LLM and your purchase will be done. Really? How much time do I spend on purchasing something to begin with? So you want to take it to seconds? Okay, how's that going to be beneficial? So I think, yeah, there are particular cases in agentic commerce that could be useful, like travel, right? You're planning a trip, of course. But there I'm worried about all the false positives that come with these agents, like, oh, okay, well, that was wrong.
I just
Those,
got one of those recently, and I was like, well, that's not good. The team on the ground was like, that literally can't happen what you're suggesting. Like those things don't exist.
right? Right. So for
Well,
me,
that's
the
not great.
commerce story has been really odd. I
Yeah.
am optimistic that they'll get somewhere.
I think that's where we get to. We talk a lot about in the enterprises about reimagining their business processes. And really, I see a lot of enterprises still in the very early stages of automation, very, very specific tasks, very deterministic kind of capabilities, because AI is good at that. And
Very
that's
good.
where the focus. And then the farther you get away from that and too much decisioning, you're layering agents upon agents to make judging decisions and calls about what to do because it's far more complex system. That's one side of the equation. So we're not going to be agent first for everything. We've coined our term. What's like a hidden reality of AI that maybe we're overlooking, if that's a possibility with all the microscopes on AI everywhere, in the organizations?
Hidden reality of an example of if you make everything AI, then what happens?
Yeah, or if you've uncovered a new location where you're like, oh, actually, no, it's really good here. We're just not talking enough about it because it's being overshadowed by the buzzwords and the other activities that are happening out there in the marketplace, if there are any. Like, I don't know if that's the case out there.
I haven't personally come across anything that's that. I'll give you an example in our case. In
Yeah,
WXP, in our platform, we
yeah,
have a concept called scripts. The scripts are manually written and the low code, easy scripts to write. So when an issue occurs, that you pick from the script, the library, and pick the script that's going to be deployed to fix the fleet issue.
yeah.
And I asked the team a simple question, again, the AI question, like, we're doing AI and all of this, like, what about here? Why do we need a script? Why isn't
Mm,
it generated? Why
right.
on earth? We have all this unbelievable amounts of data on every incident, on every telemetry data point you can think of. Why isn't the script generated on demand via AI? Oh, well, we don't trust the script. Well, okay. So that's a different problem. So where we ended up is in the middle. We've decided to have the script library, but let AI generate the script from the library versus generate a brand new one. So pick from the library, not even generate, pick from the library the right one and deploy versus having the user pick from there. So we still didn't get to the end state that I was seeking, which is
Yeah.
fleet goes down, 30,000 devices are facing a problem. AI comes in and says, boom, I know what to do. I'm going to generate a script. We're not there yet.
Hmm, I
But
got
that
it.
would
But
be
I see the
one
path to
that
get
I would
there.
see. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So as we think about kind of advice for leaders that are in this space right now and trying to think through how to navigate all the things you and I were just talking about, the speed of change, the hype cycle around these technologies, like what's the one or two things you're constantly talking to IT or business leaders just about like this market today and advice for them on how to navigate it?
What I'm hearing a lot is that there's this constant pressure from the top on CIOs to produce something of value with AI. And whether it was produced with AI or not, as in reducing the workforce and still producing the same, the credit may still go to AI
Hmm. Right.
because it's almost become a board mandate to show off what you can do with AI. Not always is it because of AI. And it might be slightly because of AI, but those are some of the things we're hearing is that CIOs are under immense pressure to produce results and show that, we're using Gen AI in this and here's how we're changing the world. But in many cases, it's just they're streamlining the organization and rationalizing the organization. And there might be some tools in there, of course, but
Sure.
you can you credit the whole thing to this while doing that? I don't know.
Really interesting. So the whole do more for less is a fascinating view from that moment in time that's really pushed these organizations. I think that's really helpful. And the connection back to AI is again super helpful because you do see that in all the stories, kind of announcements. It's always associated, but the how isn't quite clear as to how folks
Take the
catch
example
it.
of the middle management layer that's evaporating as we speak.
Right.
AI is not the manager.
Right.
Is there an agentic manager in the middle? No.
You don't have an
It
agentic middle manager.
was
I've been looking for that on the
it was
marketplace.
all the post-COVID hiring that got you to those managers reporting to managers, reporting to senior managers, reporting to senior managers. Well, don't pin this on AI because that's just you're doing what makes sense now. But
Yeah.
somehow, if you read any article, oh, because AI efficiencies got us there. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, how they want to tell the story versus the reality of what we're seeing. And then it creates this FOMO effect that spirals around in the marketplace, forcing unnatural decisions on uses of AI and in sort of edge cases that probably don't make a lot of sense. And
Yeah,
then,
in our case, I will say that one of our core ROIs for our CIOs is
Mhm.
that when you have WXP, we can automatically resolve and alert you on the core issues. So you're not filing tickets for every single thing. AI will just generate the ticket and post it and then, or resolve the issue with no ticket.
Yeah.
Right? So there is an argument in those, again, in those very particular, narrow, defined cases. But broadly speaking, I think the CIOs are under pressure of the CEO saying, well, our competitor just did this. What about you?
Right. Right. So they're balancing probably the like your example, a very great, effective efficiency story that you can go tell with doing a couple other things too, because they feel the pressure to show those. It might not be one might be flashier than the other, but it's all about this real value creation that's happening with core AI technologies.
Yeah. And where do you draw the line and say, well, look, do the right thing,
Right.
right? Whether it's AI or not, it doesn't really matter. Just do what's right, which entails like a great customer experience, low defects or zero defects, and an optimization of cost. Now, if
Yeah.
AI is obviously going to play a role in that, but doesn't have to play all the roles.
No, no. I mean, it's funny too, because we talked to chief strategy officers about the same kind of concept is that you're setting an enterprise strategy. Like AI isn't the strategy. It's one of the many tools that gets you to where you want to go.
Precisely.
So let's stop like making AI the strategy. It doesn't
But
help.
it's the classic, I used to be a CDO, so I'm gonna, be a bit more judging myself here, but it's the typical you hired a CDO and like all of a sudden the CDO is going to make all the customer digital decisions. Really? The
Yeah.
chief AI officer, like what? Is this one person going to save your company? No. So I think that also is like a bit of a red herring, right? Like, oh, we're gonna
Yeah.
get chief AI officer and they're gonna figure this out. No, they're not. AI has to be endemic in the fabric of every employee in the stack.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not going to work.
And that's a whole push on enterprise adoption. I mean, now that we get into the CDO land, I have to ask on answer your questions around like data, right? We talk to a lot of clients talk to us about data is a blocker for us. We can't move forward without the data being right. We need to spend a bunch of money on the data foundation. Are you seeing that as being a real blocker for some organizations, or do you feel like there are ways around some of those? I'd love your take on that, and especially having played the CDO role before too.
Yeah, mine was chief digital officer.
Digital, not data.
So I could say less to that. What I will say on our side is that what's really going to differentiate the AI for our WXP versus our competitors is going to be
Yeah.
just just the nature of the data we're sitting on. So it becomes a very powerful part of the equation because we can train our models on that versus somebody else who's just like our competitors are collecting generic data from other devices, including ours, which is very generic. We're
Yeah.
collecting data which is all the way down the BIOS. So we have information about the device and telemetry that our competitors just won't have. So we believe that that is an edge that we have. Now, collecting it and compiling it and making sure that we can serve it the right way is a whole other equation. But yeah, I was just being self-deprecating on the digital officer because the digital officer really like honestly it's a good gig to have, but if the whole company is not digital, it's of
Right.
no value. Like what are you doing?
In the savior model too, right? We're not just going to hire our way into one role to kind of, yeah, add AI. Chief Agent Officer, maybe that could be a new future title if we're agent
Chief
first. We could put
Agent
that out there.
Officer. Wow. So you're basically up leveling the Chief AI Officer to being the agent. Nice. I like it.
Yes, there you go. That could be our future new role as
I
well.
like it.
I would still want an AI generated title. Whatever the title is, I think it would need to be AI generated.
Yeah, that's true too. There you can get a lot of help from AI. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Especially in those use cases.
I like
Faisal,
that.
this has been an awesome conversation. Maybe just to kind of like try to put a bow on sort of we've covered on a bunch of different areas, in terms of adoption, education, where the state of AI is, hype versus reality on some of this. Some amazing new titles that we're gonna take to market. Um, how else should organizations just be thinking about AI in general, the trajectory the next couple of years, like any final kind of thoughts around that for the
I think
audience?
I think Jim, you nailed it just now, which is they're thinking of AI as the strategy and not the
Yeah.
solution. Sort of the working backwards framework, which
Hmm.
is what happens in the next let's just take 3 years because planning is dead, right? Like you can't plan anymore because every day something is dramatic is changing. So
Yeah.
to me, planning is going to become very difficult outside of a 12-month window, frankly. So let's just take 3 years just for the argument. We want to get to X. Well, first of all, you're wrong because that's going to be completely different. But if you work backwards from there, what must be true to make that happen? I think AI needs to be part of that equation. What parts of that, what must be true? You have to figure out, okay, AI can accelerate this part, and this part. This is how we're going to do it. And organizationally, we should set up this way. I think that's where organizations focus. And on our side, I would say if in the next few years we can get to a place where the ambient part of AI becomes really good, where you open your laptop and the agent comes up and says, I've read all your emails. Go ahead and ignore everything. I've canceled these meetings. I'm going to send your delegate. And I've gone ahead and shortened those meetings and I changed your ticket. And by the way, you can take this other flight and your car will be available at this time. Like that would be amazing. Like agent to agent interaction between what you're doing. I think that is the future that I'm excited about. What time period? You probably know better than I do.
I was gonna make you pick the date. Okay, we were going to make you pick the year.
I think 27-ish you can get to some level of fidelity on these transactions. But the fact that I still have to context switch nonstop and the agents are not collecting all the data behind the ambient AI isn't collecting everything in the context and serving it up in a way that I just one click and I'm done. I think that's a disappointment.
At some point, someone's going to innovate around this. I love it. I love how soon that future is you're describing. So this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate the time and chatting about AI in the market with you. Thanks so much for it. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for having me.